The morning sun poured through the tall glass windows of Crestwood Bank, reflecting off the polished floors and lending a warm glow to the otherwise sterile environment. At the center of it all, a young black woman named Aaliyah walked through the revolving doors, her heart thumping with a mix of anxiety and determination. She carried a check in her hand, one she had received from a freelance job she had worked tirelessly on for months. It was not a large amount by any means, but to Aaliyah, it represented her independence and her ability to make something of herself without relying on anyone. Her heels clicked against the marble as she approached the counter where Mr. Thompson, the bank manager, stood with an air of authority that seemed to fill the room. He was a man who prided himself on knowing the rules, on maintaining control, and on never letting personal feelings interfere with his professional judgment. As Aaliyah handed over the check, her voice slightly wavering, she explained that she wanted to deposit it into her account. Mr. Thompson's eyes scanned the paper, narrowing as he examined the signature. "I'm sorry, miss," he said, his tone tight and rigid, "but this check appears to be irregular. I can't accept it." Aaliyah blinked, disbelief and embarrassment rising simultaneously. "Irregular? It's a valid check. It's from a client who hired me for freelance consulting." "But..." Mr. Thompson waved her off, his expression hardening. "Rules are rules. I cannot deposit this unless it's verified. I'm afraid I'm going to have to tear it up." Before Aaliyah could protest, he ripped the check in half, the sound echoing like a verdict in her ears. Shock rooted Aaliyah to the spot. Her mind raced as tears pricked the corners of her eyes. She had worked so hard for this moment, saved every hour of her time. And now, in an instant, it was being dismissed. "Please, you don't understand," she pleaded. But Mr. Thompson, unflinching, started placing the pieces of the check into a shredder. Other customers glanced over, some whispering, others simply turning back to their own business, but none intervened. Aaliyah felt a surge of injustice rise within her. She clenched her fists, refusing to let anger overcome her composure. "I'm not leaving until you make this right," she said, her voice firmer now, laced with the resolve of someone who had faced challenges before and refused to be broken. Little did Mr. Thompson know, Aaliyah's story was far from ordinary. Her mother, Veronica James, was not just anyone. She was a self-made billionaire, a CEO of one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the country. Her influence stretched far beyond the boardroom. She had built empires from scratch, defied expectations, and shattered glass ceilings that most women only dreamed of touching. Aaliyah, while humble and grounded, inherited not only her mother's intelligence but also her unyielding spirit. Veronica had always emphasized the importance of perseverance, telling Aaliyah that no one had the power to diminish her worth unless she allowed it. In that moment, Aaliyah realized she had a choice: she could let this humiliation crush her, or she could reclaim her power. She took a deep breath, straightened her posture, and calmly asked, "Do you know who my mother is?" The words hung in the air, a subtle warning cloaked in politeness. Mr. Thompson laughed, a dismissive, condescending chuckle. "I don't care who your mother is. Rules are rules here. This bank does not make exceptions." That was his first mistake. Aaliyah pulled out her phone and dialed a number she knew he would recognize. The tone on the other end was polite but authoritative. "Hello. This is Veronica James." Mr. Thompson froze. He had read about Veronica James in Forbes, in business journals, in national publications. She was a figure whose name commanded respect, whose phone calls could change the trajectory of companies. He had underestimated the woman standing before him. Aaliyah handed him the phone, and for the first time, Mr. Thompson felt the weight of accountability. "Mr. Thompson," Veronica's voice resonated through the line, calm but firm, "I understand you've torn up a check belonging to my daughter. I'm certain there is a misunderstanding, but I expect it to be rectified immediately." The tone was icy yet commanding, a blend of authority and quiet fury. "Mr. Thompson, For once, felt his confidence falter. He stammered, trying to find an excuse. A justification, anything that could soften the situation. But Veronica was not a woman who tolerated nonsense. She demanded respect, clarity, and immediate resolution. Within minutes, the bank staff scrambled. Managers were called in, the shredded check was reconstructed. And apologies flowed, awkward. Insincere, but necessary. Aaliyah watched silently, a sense of vindication washing over her. She did not need her mother to fight for her. But the lesson was clear. Some people need to be reminded of the consequences of underestimating others. Mr. Thompson avoided her gaze. His arrogance replaced by sheepishness. Realizing that the world was bigger than the rules he clung to. Bigger than his authority, and certainly bigger than his assumptions. Aaliyah reclaimed the check, her hand steady now. Her heart lighter than it had been all morning. The moment was more than just a financial victory. It was a reclaiming of dignity. A statement that she would not be dismissed, underestimated, or disrespected. As she left the bank, she felt a surge of empowerment, not because of the money, but because she had confronted injustice and had the courage to stand tall. On the street, the sunlight felt warmer. The city seemed more alive. And Aaliyah knew that her mother's teachings had prepared her for exactly this kind of moment. But the story didn't end there. Word of the incident spread rapidly. Social media picked it up. Locals discussed it in cafes and online forums. Mr. Thompson's misjudgment became a cautionary tale for many, a reminder that arrogance and bias can be costly. Meanwhile, Aaliyah's dignity and composure were celebrated. Messages of support flooded in, with people praising her poise and courage. Veronica James herself made a statement, highlighting the importance of fairness, respect, and standing up against discrimination. By the evening, Aaliyah sat in her favorite cafe, sipping on a latte, reflecting on the day's events. She realized that life was unpredictable, filled with moments that test one's patience, resolve, and integrity. Yet, she also understood that strength often comes from within. From the ability to maintain composure under pressure and to demand respect without aggression. The check had been torn, but her spirit remained intact, stronger than ever. As she pulled out her phone and scrolled through the reactions online, she smiled. Not because of the attention, but because she knew the true lesson had been learned: no one can define your worth. And no obstacle is too great if you face it with courage, dignity, and intelligence. And for those watching this story unfold, let it serve as a reminder: life will test you, society may judge you, but your strength, resilience, and integrity are what define you. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Because stories like these remind us all that justice, courage, and perseverance can change the world in ways we never imagined.